Welcome to the Therapeutic Food Solutions podcast. I'm your host, Marian Mitchell. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach, therapeutic diet expert, and founder of The Road to Living Whole. There are many different diets out there. It's hard to know which one is right for you with your chronic illness and autoimmune disease. In this podcast, I'm going to share with you the foundational pieces every single therapeutic diet out there shares, and also how to use the best one for your particular diagnosis. If you've been looking for a meal planning partner, help navigating the complicated healthcare system, and want to feel better quickly, I'm your girl. Grab your kombucha and notebook. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This week I have joining me Alicia Powers, and she is a food decision scientist, and I didn't know what that was, and she explained it to me, and it's beautiful. I am so excited to talk with her today and for her to share with you what she knows and her own journey. We're going to be talking about managing sugar and realistic strategies to do so that are actually evidence-based. And we get some very realistic information about sugar and its impact on the body. Managing sugar and avoiding sugar or minimizing sugar is something everybody struggles with. It is something that is very, very difficult. As I was telling Alicia before we recorded, my two clients this morning are both came to me and were like, well, I kind of fell off the bandwagon with sugar. And, my husband's sabotaging me because he's diabetic and loves sugar. And how do I deal with this? And it's difficult, and it's a struggle everybody has. You're not special or extra weak or anything like that. So I'm so excited to introduce you to Alicia and for her to share what she knows. Alicia, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So tell us, what is a food decision scientist and what is your background?
Okay, so it really does come from my background, the idea of being a food decision scientist. I am one of these strange people who actually has a degree in statistics, and I love it. I am a data nerd through and through. And so, as my career has progressed, I'm now a data scientist, and I love how data can help you make decisions. And what I find in my own life is that as I have struggled with my own health issues, it really comes down to how I'm making decisions and under what environments I'm making those decisions. So when I started from the data science aspect, I started analyzing the CDC's nutritional survey that they do of the like 40 or 50,000 people in the United States, what they eat for 2 days. And when I started analyzing that data, I found it fascinating. I was surprised what people were eating or not eating in 2 days. I was surprised on how unhealthy our general population is in the way that they eat. But I was also surprised by some of the factors that impact what people choose to eat, like where they have access to food, or what time they're eating, or their culture. There are all these different things that impact how people make these decisions. And so my goal was to build a food recommendation engine, which is still in process, where people could put in information about what they do and what they don't do and get food recommendations that were really fit for them. And I'm not talking about the recommendations that a nutritionist might make or a doctor might make, because oftentimes, in my experience, I'll speak personally, when I've gone to those professionals, they have sometimes a pretty set way that they look at how someone should eat and what they should be eating. And if you're starting from a point where maybe you're having 6 Cokes a day, or you're starting from a point that's really far away from how you are supposed to be eating, it can be exceedingly daunting to try and figure out how to get to that right eating. So my
Yeah.
recommendation engine focuses on the little steps, the things that you feel empowered to do, and building off those smaller habits to get to the bigger habits. And
How
that's how
exciting.
I love the work that I do.
Oh my gosh, that just like made my eyes, like if I was an emoji, I'd be like the heart eyes beating out because yeah, people just expect perfection like from day one. And there's not like any sort of like lead in period or let's meet you where you're at. That's just so difficult for people. And people feel like they want to do what's right. And then they feel like failures. And that is like the last thing we want people to feel like. And yeah, so tell us, how did you, like, the topic of the day is managing blood sugar intake. What is your experience with sugar? What have you learned about sugar intake in America? And let's talk about that.
So when I looked at the nutrition surveys, people eat way more sugar than they're supposed to. And even supposed to is kind of strange because in nature, sugar doesn't show up the way that we eat it at all. The added sugar is kind of a really refined product that doesn't appear in nature so readily. And it's in a lot of things that are also have fat content or high salt. So when you start putting all these super intense, delicious things together, it's easy to feel like you're having this amazing thing that's helping your body, but it's usually not. So in the research in America, they say we should have anywhere from 4 to 6 to 9 teaspoons of sugar a day, somewhere in there, depending on gender and all these, different studies of different things. And the most recent number I read was 17% I mean, 17 tablespoons on average is what most Americans are doing, mostly from added sugar because
Mhm.
there's added sugar in the yogurt and the salad dressing and there's a lot of hidden sugars in what people consume.
So I have a question. So 17 teaspoons, how many grams of sugar is that?
So my understanding is a teaspoon and 4 grams of sugar per. So
Mm,
we're getting into like almost a quarter a cup of sugar a day, which is a lot.
that's a
When you
lot.
visualize it, and if you just sat it in front of someone and said, please consume this today, you'd probably have to work pretty hard at it. But
Mhm.
because the high sugar is intermingled with so many different things that people eat on a regular basis, and you don't maybe taste it as well, um,
Mhm.
people are able to consume quite a bit, and that's the average. So
Yeah. So
we
there's
look
higher,
at
there's
people, yeah,
lower. Yeah.
right,
Like those 6 Coke a day people,
yeah,
but then it's like, even if you try to eat healthy, you're eating cereal, which all of them have added sugar, and you're eating yogurt, which has a lot of added sugar. Even like it's salad dressings. It's in crackers, it's on chips a lot of times. Like if you look at it, like, there's all these like big scientific words, and I'm like, that means sugar. It's
yeah.
just a sugar from corn instead of a sugar from sugar cane, and or whatever. And I remember my former mother-in-law was dealing with major health issues, so she went on a special K diet. And the special K bars, the first 5 ingredients are 5 different forms of sugar. So here she is thinking that she's doing something healthy because Special K, was has been their branding's been very good at associating them with health. And the first 5 ingredients on their protein bar were sugar. Like,
That is It's unfathomable. I mean, you're speaking to something. So at my company, Core Harmonic, we have a no food shaming policy because I think it's important that people can be free to talk about what they eat and how they feel
mhm,
about what they eat. But I do have my pet peeves. When you talk about that Special K bar, one of my pet peeves are gummy vitamins
mm,
because you take vitamins, something that's supposed to be healthy for you, and then you add dyes and sugar to it. I think that's really not the best way to be healthy. And it
right.
also sets people up for feeling a little bit addicted.
Mhm,
I tried them because I like to understand what people are doing. And I found myself, because I wasn't eating a lot of other sugars, I was like, oh, this is my candy, this is my snack, this is my reward, which is not the relationship you want to have with your vitamins, right?
right.
So
Or
I
food in general. I
or
don't think
food in
food
general,
should
yeah.
be a reward. And it's because I always think about like my dog, right? And you train a dog with food,
Hmm.
and you reward a dog with a bone or food or something like that. And it's like, guys, we're not dogs. We don't, I mean,
We don't
food
want to
is
behave.
wonderful. It's a wonderful experience, but it's not something that I deserve a treat because I worked hard,
Mhm.
and I think that that's like the hardest thing to break, right? Is that treat mentality. And I think that starts way in childhood, right? And then it just kind of continues as we get older.
I think you're absolutely right. And in addition to the treat space, it's also comfort foods are another space. And
Yeah.
when you were talking about people healing, I am working with a webinar right now on healing without sugar because when people are healing, they want comfort. They want
Hmm.
convenience. And unfortunately, if you go to the supermarket and you want comfort and convenience, you're almost always getting sugar or high salt or high something.
Hmm.
And you're absolutely right. I think the emotional component is such a big part of how people relate to food. And
Yeah.
so it very much in the food decision scientist space, I think a lot about how someone's coming to that particular food. And we do that a lot through data, so then
Hmm.
tracking people's food and their emotions. When I work with clients, I don't ask them the amount of food that they ate. I actually ask them the emotions. They can tell me what they ate or not, and most often they do, but I'm really interested in how you felt when you ate it and why you ate it, if you know.
Yeah.
I track my own and I eat when I'm tired all the time. That
Yeah.
is something that is consistent. And so when I work with clients, I really focus on, okay, we see this pattern. What are some other things you can do that you're tired? And so I develop some other things to help support people in different choices. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're absolutely right. That emotional connection with food it can be dangerous for people.
Yeah. So let's talk about sugar specifically. And what do we know about the negative side of consuming too much sugar, the detrimental side? I don't want to say negative, but detrimental side of the overconsumption of sugar. Like what diseases can be attributed
Yeah.
attributed to excessive sugar intake. And you shared a story that I thought was super interesting because my mom struggled with this, and she just ended up getting lasered, and so
Yeah.
it didn't fix the problem, obviously. So yeah, let's dive into that.
So to talk about my story a little bit, I was in my 30s and I went for a gynecological exam and they said I had fibroids and I was not happy about that. I didn't want to have fibroids. I was like, what can I do before we talk about these other solutions? And I took a lot of time and decided that I wanted to try changing my behaviors. At the time, I was eating extremely poorly. I was not working out. I was not doing things that really encouraged my health. And I said, let's try this. I went on a no sugar diet and added some movement and did a few other things. And within 6 months, when I went for the ultrasound, they didn't find anything. So somehow my body repaired itself. And I think the more science we're learning, the more we're learning that the body is set up to repair itself after all kinds of different potential traumas and things that we can go through. As far as sugar goes, too much sugar a lot of times and historically people think of diabetes. So basically you develop this situation where your body doesn't really handle the sugar well anymore because insulin has been pumping, it's trying to handle the sugar, and then eventually your muscles say, we've seen you, you're knocking on the door all the time. We don't want to deal with this anymore. Insulin's not helpful anymore. And then you've got to figure something else out. Now, the more recent research is talking of really houses all of this in the idea of a metabolic
Hmm.
disease, right? So your metabolism is not working properly, which is part of it. Like, and the goal is to get your nutrients into the space to make energy for your body so it can do all the things that are miraculous that it does. And so this metabolic, group that everyone's talking about is that system's not working well.
Hmm.
Whatever you're putting in is not getting assimilated in a way that your body can use it in a way to be at your best. And so sugar for me is the place where pretty much any body system, it doesn't help. It definitely doesn't help during healing. I mean, we know that it increases inflammation. We know that it actually can make you more sensitive to
Hmm.
pain. At the same time, we know it inhibits your ability to create your own opioid-like responses to your body. So, like, if you're already in pain, adding sugar is just like adding fuel to a fire. Um, we know that it can lead to diabetes and all the things that go with that. And they're talking about Alzheimer's being the third,
Yeah,
diabetes. So
pre-diabetes. Yep.
yes. So we're getting very clear in the science that sugar is disrupting the
Hmm.
system. So regardless of how it's doing it, it's absolutely creating barriers to having your system working well. And I was on talking to someone else about this, and she said it's very similar to like the way we live in our world, where we have a very busy world. We have these phones that are constantly, notating and telling us things, and we've got lots of inputs and lots of things. And our bodies are experiencing something very similar. We've got lots of chemicals and sugars and all these different things that your body has to figure out what to do with and deal with and put someplace. And our bodies aren't doing a great job because they weren't really made for that. They were generally made for natural foods that, have been around for, centuries, thousands of years or whatever. And so I think with sugar, it's a good place to start because no one has died from sugar deficiency that I'm aware of.
Right.
Um, you really, no matter what ailment that you're working with, no matter what phase of life you're in, if you eat less sugar, almost certainly you will feel better than you did with the extreme amount of sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see the science coming forward. With the new like CDC, FDA, HHS that branch of the administration and the passion that they have. It's going to be super interesting to see what comes out of it. I'm super, super, super interested. So yeah, it's interesting because so in my meal plans that I designed for my clients, one of my biggest goals is to get the roller coaster blood sugar under control and get it into those gentle waves that we want to see, where people, it's not going too far up, it's not going too far down, we're just kind of staying in the zone. And through that, people start feeling better very, very quickly. Right. And I don't even cut out all added sugar. There's honey in there. If they want to add a teaspoon of sugar to their coffee, I'm not going to say no, but it does cut it down significantly just by swapping ultra processed food for more whole foods. Right. And it's people are always so fascinated with how quickly their bodies respond, but also how quickly the cravings go away when people are eating those, really sweet breakfasts. They're having a pastry with that venti Starbucks frappuccino, I have people that start their day with a Coke, right? Like they can't do anything else till they have their Coke, and then they go on for the day, and just that sugar spike with the drop, and then it's on a roller coaster all day long. And a lot of people think they don't have willpower, and that's not the problem. The problem is the blood sugar. The body needs to function, and it needs certain things to be able to do that. And when sugar's too high, then it crashes very quickly, and the body's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then it goes up really fast, and people just don't realize that it's not a willpower thing. It's a food balancing and knowing how to nourish your body properly. And I think when we're talking about sugar, I really wanted to point that out because people always think it's a willpower thing. They cut out sugar, but they don't replace it with whole foods, and then they're just hungry, right?
Right. I agree with you. We've been marketed to, and I think sadly the health and fitness space has been really,
Detrimental.
yeah, that's the right word, to helping people actually learn their bodies
Mhm.
and learn what they're capable of doing and um, how to integrate things that are really truly feel good to them. I feel like, and I'm going to speak of my own experience, when I was eating a lot of sugar and salt too, my taste buds changed.
Yeah.
When I went off the sugar, the cravings were absolutely different for sure, because I even sometimes crave certain fruits and vegetables. They don't tell you
No.
that. Your cravings, your taste buds change where certain things that are natural are way sweeter
Yeah.
than they used
So I have a question for you. When you first cut out sugar, did food taste really bland that first like
to.
week?
It did. Oh my gosh. I was like, what is going on? I couldn't even really taste, to be quite
Yeah.
frank.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
always that's one thing that I hear a lot, like when I'm like, let's just like because I do like a no sugar January, right? Because
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
8 months or 8 weeks of like pure sugar and alcohol, right? It's like, all right, let's kind of do a little bit of a reset here. And food always tastes really bland those first few days. And it's
Mhm.
the way our taste buds are respond to the stimulus coming in, right? The highly processed foods and the chemicals that are in them, along with the extra sugar. And it's like after a week, an apple tastes completely different
Totally different.
than when
Yes.
you're eating high sugar and you're like trying to be healthy and you're like the health food just is so bland and it's like it's really not but you know it is when your taste buds are being constantly overstimulated, right?
And no one tells you
Nope.
that. Like you don't, so you assume you're doing something wrong, or like most Americans will say, I don't like fruits and vegetables. It's actually you don't not like them. You may not have experienced them in a way that allows you to like them.
I always say
Um,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge, right?
Yeah.
Because there are so many ways to eat vegetables that can meet your criteria, but you just probably haven't experienced it because vegetables don't have their own PR system. They don't
Right.
have, marketing or advertising to say this sweet potato is amazing. And these are like 100 ways you can eat a sweet potato.
That and I think the 100 ways thing. So a lot of people when they think of broccoli, they think about in the 80s, in the 70s, in our childhood when frozen vegetables first really became a thing and you would boil them in water and they were the most tasteless,
Oh,
mushy texture that I'm like making a face. It's like, blah, you know, and it's like, have you ever had roasted broccoli with olive oil and salt or grilled asparagus or, like,
exactly.
you know,
I am not a broccoli fan. I do not like it, but I did discover I like broccoli salad. So it's just I like it
yeah,
raw versus cooked.
yeah,
That's just, but that's the opportunities vegetables give you. Like you can raw, cooked, cook several different ways, paired with lots of things, very simple. Like it, there's a whole world out there that most people don't recognize can be good because they haven't experienced it, because that's not how we've been cooking for the last probably two
yeah.
generations.
People don't know how to cook. They don't like it.
That's
They
another
find
thing.
it difficult. I mean, I have a family member, bless her soul, cannot cook to save her life. She puts the weirdest ingredients together and she's like, wonders why it tastes bad. And I'm like, what? I don't understand why you did that. Like, and they, so it's like that the art of cooking, that skill hasn't been passed down with convenience food, right? So
Right.
not only do we have, the last two generations who really don't know. So you're asking them to eat whole foods, but they don't know how to prepare them, how to cook them, how to make them taste good. I actually started out my business, my health coaching practice, giving cooking classes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I started with desserts and revamping desserts using whole ingredients and like doing like oatmeal, almond butter protein balls and kale chips, that they had for the first time. And they were like, I can't believe kale can taste this good. And, and it was, and I would love to get back into that. I'm just not in a place in my life where I can, but like teaching like I have people who attended my very first cooking classes and I had this amazing kale salad. It's still one of my favorite recipes and it's one of their favorite recipes too. I've been in business for 13 years and it's still their favorite salad that they make every week. And it's like that's the type of stuff that we have to empower people with is like not only the knowledge but the application of the knowledge and how to make it an enjoyable experience because food is a social connecting experience. We don't want it to be. I have people who do intermittent fasting who find themselves literally blacked out and they wake up in a closet with a chocolate bar and they're like, I don't even have chocolate in my house. So they like their body shut down. They drove to the store, grabbed chocolate, went home and hid in a closet to eat it. And then when their blood sugar, then they kind of came to and were like, I don't even know what happened. I'm like, well, I know what happened. So people could do all these extreme things instead of just like, hey, added sugar really, I mean, if we can get rid of most added sugar and get to whole food, like
So
it's transforming.
yes, absolutely. That's one reason why I'm working with healing without sugar right now, because even if you're not going to transform your whole life, if you're sick, you absolutely should consider not dealing with sugar at least for a few days, a week, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the ways that I help people think about it is I ask them to create a rest and rejuvenation kit, because
Ooh.
right? You want to be prepared. It's like anything in life that can be challenging. You know, when you're sick, you're not making the best decisions. You are really ready to roll over, get your phone and call Grubhub or whoever is delivering. And who
Mm-hmm.
knows what's on the end of that order. If you prepare yourself with a menu plan with the right things in your pantry, and you have your rest and rejuvenation kit, which I have, like, comfy blanket. I have a mug that I use when I'm sick because it just feels good. The things that bring you the emotions that you are trying to get out of the food, you can actually get a pretty long way before you end up in the closet with the chocolate bar. Like, you may still, I can't promise that you won't, but I think that there are, as far as decision making goes and how human beings cognitively understand how to make a decision, when you get sick, you kind of go on automatic. And so if you prepare things ahead of time, you have a much better chance of getting it through it without kind of harming yourself. Um,
Yeah, so let's talk about that. If somebody's listening to this and they go, okay, it's time for me to cut the added sugar. Now, we're not talking about the sugar that's found in fruits and vegetables, okay? So, I know it people group them together and it really makes me mad. Professionals group them fruit in
yeah.
with sugar, and I'm like, please don't do that. Let's not take away all joy in life. So fruits and vegetables, we're not talking about natural sugars found in plants, okay, including for, I don't even care if it's pineapple, grapes, whatever, okay. We're talking about added sugar. So just clarifying that for the audience. So what are your realistic strategies? Like if you're taking somebody who's drinking 6 Cocas a day, eating lots of highly processed food with lots of added sugar, what are your tried and true strategies for people to get to the place where they are not eating sugar?
Sure. So I really focus on individual needs and wants and goals.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I also start with data. So we do a 7-day tracking, which people, I hate a food journal. Don't get me wrong, like I hate them, and that's why I designed the one that I did, because I really wanted it to be very easy for people to track what they're having without the guilt, without the fret, without all these other things, but also collect data that's really helpful. So I had a client who was struggling with, maybe it was a Starbucks, I don't know, some frou-frou coffee situation. And so she tracked it and we discovered she's always having the coffee in the car. That's the only place she drinks this coffee. And by discovering that, we discovered that if we put some different snacks in the car, or considered some other drinks, armed her with a chai or something else in the morning every morning, she may not go there. So it's not about like stop drinking that drink. It is, what are the 3, 4 things we can do that will get you closer to that feeling? And then you probably won't even think about the other thing.
I have a story about that. When I was going through a really hard period in my life, I found myself drinking Starbucks, specifically Starbucks, every single day. And I was like, and it was kind of just on autopilot. Like it was like, I need it. And finally I was like, why do I need it? And it was because it reminded me of my senior year and through college, of meeting up with my friends and drinking coffee while we did our homework. And so it was that social connection that like I was missing.
Yeah.
And when I realized that the Starbucks, it was giving me that feeling of being with my friends and that comfort, I started reaching out to my friends because I was in a place where life was just crazy, single mom, it was just nuts. I think I had 3 jobs at the time. Like, it was in a very, very small circle of support. And I didn't let people support me. So
Yes.
I started reaching out. I let people know, hey, I'm really lonely. I'm struggling. I'm like, can we make a plan where we see each other at least once a week? I don't care if it's for 5 minutes, right? And ended up, my friends started just showing up. And like, I had a toddler and a 4 or 5 year old in my house, and I'm in like a 600 square foot apartment. Like it was a mess all the time. They would just show up and they would bring me groceries. They would bring me coffee. They would just come over and say, hey, what do you, they would look around and be like, I'm going to fold your laundry for you,
Oh,
and so it was just like by allowing people, like telling people, hey, I'm struggling. I miss my community. I'm drowning, and opening that up. I didn't buy the Starbucks
yeah.
anymore, you
I,
know?
that's an excellent example of what I'm talking about. A lot of people's food stories are like that. There are 2 reasons, I think. One, food is one of the things human beings do that include all five senses. So
Hmm.
they're very salient memories that you really experience, especially if you allow yourself to taste and listen and see and smell. It is a really immersive experience. And so those memories absolutely stay with you. But the second thing is the marketers are excellent at giving you that sense of this particular food is going to solve all your problems. You're going to be
Like the Dove
popular.
chocolate commercials.
You're going to be popular. You're going to be loved. You're going to feel embraced. You're going to feel warm. You're going to feel like their whole shtick is to marry these amazing emotions to this particular food. And they're very good at what they do. And so
Yeah.
between those two things, that's kind of the crux of what I do is like get to those decisions, try and unravel those types of things and start small. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't solve those problems. You don't come to me to like solve your life at all. Um, but you come to me when you're first starting out saying, I'm noticing there's things that are just really hard for me to stop. And I don't do therapy. I just merely say, these are the patterns we see. Can we dive into it a little bit and we can discover? I did one, I worked with one client and she was having coffee like 25% of the time. Like she ate, and I was like, are you aware that a lot of what you intake is coffee? And I think when we kind of unraveled it, it was a little bit of a discussion of using coffee as a meal replacement. She was trying to lose weight and she
Hmm.
was lowering her energy. Her body was telling her, we need nutrients, we need energy, and she was choosing the coffee. So,
Hmm.
and then we looked at other things as well. But that's what the data allows me to do is really get in there and start with the nitty-gritty outside of specific nutrition macros and micros and really just like what are the habits? And I
How
discover them in
powerful.
myself all the time. I have plenty of
That, yeah, that's so, so powerful. I'm beyond that. I'm when people are really, really sick. Um, and they need some like nutrition support. Like,
that's
and um, as I've gone on in my years, I work with less people who are just beginning and more people who are really in the thick of it and trying all the things. I love that I have a resource for the people who are really, really struggling or just really new. It is such a challenge. Food is such a challenge. America and the marketing has made food a very, very emotional, and it is naturally an emotional experience, right? Like I find people, especially when they're really sick and they're really stressed out, love going to restaurants. And it's because you walk in and there's the ambience and the smells it is all five senses. And I think that especially as people are really, really busy and in the thick of things, restaurants give them, they associate like I'm being taken care of and I'm able to slow down and I can smell it versus like throwing something in the microwave and shoveling it in that, a lot of people do if they don't eat out. And I love that it's data driven and there's no shame because, gosh, there's so much shame around food. It breaks my heart.
I don't think, for me, I don't think there needs to be because it's not helpful. If it were helpful to be
Mm,
shameful in this instance, then it would have solved itself by now because people have so
right.
much shame. People would absolutely be eating right. I don't think shame helps. And if it's not helping,
Mm-mm.
let's not waste time and energy on it. Let's go to the stuff that actually is, helping. And I often think of when I started creating this business and this approach, I think of my grandmother who fed, she had five kids and she fed them, out of her garden as well as the supermarket. And she's the one who taught me how to pick green beans because she's not paying for any green beans that aren't going to be, So
Right.
a real connection with food that's a lot closer to the source. And I think we have gotten away from that. But I'm
Hmm.
hoping through my practice and the work that I do to help people remember that food gets its nutrients from the sun and the water and like things that, are very basic but provide everything we need. And I think we've got to kind of remember that it can be simple. It doesn't need
Yeah.
to be, I pick on hot Cheetos a lot because I'm just like, there's so much going on in that bag, that color, that spiciness.
I know people end up in emergency rooms with stomach pain eat from eating them.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
but they're addicted and they can't stop. They're like eating them while in stomach pain at the hospital because they're just like they're so good.
Oh my gosh. It's again a food that I don't understand, but to me exemplifies where American, companies are putting their energy. And I
Yeah.
I wish they'd put their energy into something else. I don't have control over that, but I'm gonna show you if you have enough energy to go buy hot Cheetos and consume them and end up in the hospital, I can guarantee you could use that energy for something else because we can get spice. We can do Thai food. We can get spice. We can get a
Mhm.
lot of things that I don't think I can get the weird color of, but the things that you like really resonate with, I can get you crunchy spicy. That can happen. Um,
Oh yeah. Finger licking good without the color.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think people feel like they can only get, and I felt like this a long time with my relationship with food. The only way I'm going to get that feeling is if I go to get the Whopper and have it done my way. That's the
Mhm.
only way I'm going to have the agency and feel independent
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
Yeah, I do. There's something else I want to talk about that I think is also really important. It kind of ties into it. A lot of people think when they cut out the sugar, they're just going to magically lose weight and have this super slim physique and like all their troubles are going to be gone. And when it doesn't happen, they just kind of throw in the towel. And so since we're talking about really the relationship with food and how, sugar off does all kinds of brain chemicals to make you addicted to it, right? But let's talk about we have to talk about that because that's a big thing, especially for women, especially, but for men too. I mean, men just naturally drop weight faster, so they have less of a struggle with this, but there's still the struggle there.
Yes, I am in that struggle right now. So, and I'm also menopausal of menopausal age, so that adds another thing to hormones. So, what sugar gives you is a couple things. One, it gives you your palate back. It gives
By
you
cutting sugar.
by cutting sugar. Yeah, I'm sorry, by cutting sugar, by getting rid of it gives you your palate back so you can start tasting and enjoy food again. It also gives you some clarity about how you make your decisions, and that is super, super important.
Mhm.
It also gives you a strategy to start understanding how food is interacting with you. So it also, I'm trying to think where I was going to go with this. It gives you the skill set to understand how to interact with food differently. It has you focus on health and less on some of the things that are less immediately things that you can change immediately, right? So your
Yeah.
weight is a complex, there's so many systems involved. So
So
many
many.
things. Like you've got your genetics, you've got your hormones, you've got the quality of your water, the quality of your sleep. You've got a
Mm.
whole host of things. But what I often tell people is if you start with the sugar and deal with that aspect, everything else becomes more clear and
Hmm.
easier. You will sleep
Yeah.
better without the sugar. Like
Yeah.
as you talk about the ups and the downs with the roller coaster, once you have that state, you can
Yeah.
sleep better. Yeah.
Talking about sleep, when you're dealing with an irregular, like a blood pressure or roller coaster all day, so continuous glucose monitors are a thing now. And for since 2021, several of my doctors like use them pretty religiously, almost as a diagnostic tool. And people who wake up between like 2 and 3 a.m. every day, a lot of the times it's a blood sugar drop to the point that their body wakes them up to like spike the cortisol so that their muscles and fat release sugar into the bloodstream and it wakes them up because they're like, if I don't wake you up, you're going to die. Right. And by when you remove added sugar and you focus on whole foods as the foundation, you do sleep better because you're not having blood sugar drops in the middle of the night.
Which is huge. I mean,
Huge.
I think people don't recognize that these spikes, your body does perceive them like fight or flight. Like your body is like, we might die in the next few hours, which is not our reality. And we know on some level that's not our reality, but our bodies don't know that. And we
Right.
sometimes forget our bodies, although miraculous, are a little bit childlike. They like just simple things like good food and to be hugged. Like it's not a good nap.
Sunshine and water.
Exactly. And so if we start there with the simple things and treat ourselves more gently, it makes everything easier. So I personally don't promise weight loss at all. I don't promise anything specifically around specific metrics because people are so individual, but I have seen people reduce their blood pressure just by changing certain things around their sugar. Because
Hmm.
when your body's not feeling all hyper, um, you can relax more. And then when you actually relax, your body really relaxes. And then you can actually have a lower blood pressure because your body's not thinking we've got to run somewhere because there's a tiger around the corner. And
Yeah.
so all of those things get better. But I really do ask people, and I think I get people who are a little tired of talking about the weight loss because as a statistician, the scale is one of the worst ways to understand how healthy you are. I mean, it just is. Like
Well, I
water
don't think
weight.
people realize like, but well, then you look at bodybuilders, right? They have very little body fat. You would not believe how much they weigh because
Oh,
must
yeah.
like you'll take like a size zero, 5'2" bikini model. She's going to weigh 160 pounds, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, she's overweight. I'm sorry. She has like she probably doesn't even have a period. She has so little body fat.
Mhm.
Uh, It's not the number on the scale.
It is the worst measure. And again, I'm going to go and say the health and fitness industry really, because it guarantees people will always come back because you can't, that is not the metric to understand how healthy you are or
Mhm.
whether you are the right size for your body or your genetics or your culture or whatever it is. And so we I really do focus on health. And because I'm not a nutritionist or a medical doctor, a lot of what we focus is on how you feel and what you're actually doing. Like if you don't get out of bed until 10 o'clock or whatever your world is like, and then once you release a lot of that sugar, you are up and at 'em and ready to go for a walk. I call that a win. That's a health win because
Mhm.
I don't know what it's going to do to your blood pressure in this moment, but I know if you go for that walk over time, your blood pressure is going to get better.
Yeah.
And so that's the focus that I have. And I agree with you. I think it is disappointing for a lot of people to think because we think in terms of calories and I've reduced this amount of calories because I've stopped with this kind of added sugar. But honestly, when you release, your body may ask for other things and it may ask for
Mhm.
more calories for a while. So,
Yeah.
it can do there are lots of ways
Well,
to
then you have
do
to think
better.
about, okay, so excessive sugar intake, there's chemicals, ghrelin and leptin, that are appetite regulating hormones. And when we have excessive sugar intake, those get off. So we're always hungry and never feel full unless we're physically distended to the point that it's painful, right? A lot of people eat, the only time they feel full is if they're physically, their stomach can't handle anymore. They never feel like satisfied full. It takes several weeks plus getting adequate protein and all of that. You can reset that, but that takes a while. And by cutting out the added sugar without all the other, metrics and macros and all of that, just by removing the added sugar, it starts to reset that. And all of a sudden, food becomes a whole different experience.
It does. And it can be a really beautiful one. I think people get a little scared because I think sugar and salt numb a lot of stuff, and we live in a culture where we like extremes and then numb. Extremes, like I
Mm-hmm.
need to be all the way up here or all the way down here or something numb. And I think once you remove that numbness and start getting in, I think sometimes people get a little bit scared. I don't want to try
True.
something new. I don't want to, I don't know what that's going to be like. I'm sure I'm not going to be satisfied with that. But once they start playing and seeing it a little bit more like play,
Mm-hmm.
then you start to remember what's really good and what you really like, and your body definitely remembers. Your body
Yeah,
just wants nutrients. It really doesn't
it does.
want to be on the roller
It
coaster.
wants nutrients, it wants stable blood sugar, it wants connection,
Yeah.
it wants rest.
Yes.
It wants play.
Ab-
And I think that part of what you're doing is helping people get back to the basics of just living life and experiencing it. And that is so empowering and wonderful. And I'm so excited we got connected because it's just, I love what you do. And I want to make sure that people know how to get connected to you because I know this is going to resonate with a lot of people. And I would like to have you as a referral source for myself.
Thank you.
So if people want to connect with you and maybe join your coaching, where do they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Core Harmonic, and I'm also on YouTube, Core Harmonic Food. But the best place is www.sugarslowdown.com. And so that is my website where I have information. I do free 15-minute calls. We can talk about anything. I'm not really great at sales. I just really want to help people. So I know I have lots of coaches who are like, you need to say this and do this. And I really suck at that. I really think I offer things that are valuable and helpful. And if you have this problem, I think we can help you solve it. And, we go from there. But I'm happy to conversate and talk with anyone who has questions or is kind of wanting to dip their toe. I think it's such a huge problem in America. I think it also contributes to why people are just struggling in general with so many things, family
Right.
relations, and it's really hard to be relaxed and relate to people well when you're not feeling good. And so,
Yeah.
we just want to help people feel better.
Absolutely. I've loved our conversation. I feel like it's going to help so many people and validate so many people. And I'm just really, really excited. I've always been really thin. Up until like the last few years. I gained like 20 pounds in like 3 months and I haven't been able to lose it since. But that has to do with hormones and stuff. And it is really hard for people. But when people are really starting from the beginning of change, like it is the most heartbreaking, heart-wrenching process for a person to go through. And if we can make that experience easier and not shame-based and rooted in learning, because so many people are disconnected from their bodies that they don't even know how to listen. And so helping that connection again with the body and the mind and speaking the same language, that is so incredibly powerful.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you see me, and also I love what I do because it's deeply personal to me. It's personal to a lot of people I've met, and I think we live in a world that has a pretty tough food landscape. It's hard to navigate it even with skills, and so
Oh
if
yeah.
you don't have those skills, it's seemingly impossible, but it's not impossible. It's
Yeah.
absolutely doable, but you just have to learn some skills.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me and connecting with my audience, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited that we've met and we'll stay in touch. And
Yes.
fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you found this episode helpful, would you do me a favor and help others find it by leaving a review, sharing a screenshot on social media, or sharing the link with a friend? By you sharing what you've learned, others are able to find this podcast and join our community. Be sure to check out my website, www.roadtolivinghole.com, for over 160 delicious recipes, a variety of meal plans, and a blog packed full of even more healthy living tips. If you'd like to learn more about how to work with me as your coach, you can schedule a free consult through www.roadtolivinghole.com/health-coaching/. Until next time, friend. Bye.